Hello, friends. Hey, so glad you chose to be back with us today. In the studio is with us Stacey Ellis. Hey, Stacey.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for
Now,
having me.
I noticed that you're originally from Killeen.
Yeah, well,
You're
kind
from
of.
Killeen, but not originally.
Yes.
I'm going to take a guess that your father was in the Army.
Yes.
Because I looked and you have said a whole lot of places, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my father retired in Killeen, but
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that makes sense.
yes.
Yeah.
But we lived in many places. We always moved around every few years. So I'm still kind of into moving because I grew up that way.
You used to be in transient, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's been many years ago. I actually have family from Lampasas. Lampasas is definitely not Killeen.
Yeah, it's not. It's close.
It's close in proximity, but
Yeah.
very much a farming community,
Yes.
you know. Have a great uncle, great aunt, cousins that live there. And so I was totally surprised at first because I had a pastor call me and he said, hey, would you come to Killeen and help us here? He said, Killeen's just like Dallas. I went, I'm thinking Lampasas. I'm going, there's nothing Killeen like Dallas until I went down there. And it has one of the highest populations of single moms in
Yes.
America. It's very, very high. So you interned, you left Killeen and interned in New York City with Pastor Bill Wilson. How did that all come about?
Well, I actually, when I was in college, I did a mission trip with Global Expeditions, and I went on one of the cheapest mission trips that was there, and it was the one that was in America, and I was in New York. I actually never heard of Metro Ministries before then.
Okay.
So when I did my mission trip there, that's when I found out about the ministry, and I fell in love, and I found out they had the internship. And so I was still in college at the time, but I applied to the internship for right after I graduated, and they accepted me. I remember seeing the email. I started crying because I really wanted to go. Like, I never knew that there was a ministry like that. And, so I after I graduated, instead of going into my career, I went to my internship for 4 months in New York.
So was it in the fall or in the spring?
It was in the fall.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
And the weather was?
So it started off really hot.
Which is not, you would not think that in New York City, right?
Yeah, they have no air condition.
True.
We had to use fans for everything. But then it ended up being really cold, very different from Texas. We had to go out in the snow and, you still had to show your Yogi Bear shirt, so.
That was your only protection you had.
Yeah. So you had to figure out a way to show it in the cold. But it was good. I really enjoyed my time there.
When you were in the intern program, where did you live at that time? Where was the intern program building?
It was in Bushwick, Brooklyn.
I mean, was it in the old church building? Or do you remember?
Knickerbocker.
Oh, Knickerbocker. Okay.
Yeah. We were there when the roof caved in.
Oh, well, glory.
Yeah, that was our intern class.
Yeah, Pastor Bill he's been a good friend I actually met him 40 years ago. So that's hard to believe. Wrap your brain around that, right? And I remember the first couple of times I saw him, I went, what planet does this guy live on, right? So New York City, particularly in those days, particularly Brooklyn, third world country in many ways, The offices were at that time right across the street. Let's see, 2000. What year were you there? 2000?
2007. They had the hospital, but they were renovating it.
And, but the offices were over on, what was that building? It was a couple of streets over. I can't remember the name of the street.
I don't remember the name
a couple of streets over. But originally, where the youth building was, which was right across the street from the warehouse, that was the offices for years. And then they bought whatever that street was, a couple of blocks over, and then they bought the hospital is really nice now. I know it's hard to believe, but it really is.
I imagine it is. I have some of my friends stayed, and they have their Instagrams and stuff, and they'll show videos. So I can see some of. Okay,
now you got me running back. I'm trying to figure out who all. Give me some names.
Jill.
Okay.
What's her last name? Elligson. Karan. Stalling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who. I know there was people that were there and they left, but I know those two are still there, and they were part of my intern class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Praise the Lord. Well, it's God's done something. Of course, now it's much more than just New York City. Yeah, it's amazing the doors the Lord has opened for them overseas. You're married now to Andrew
yes.
Ellis. Tell us about Andrew.
Oh, well, he is a high school teacher and a coach.
Oh.
So he coaches football and softball.
Oh,
they actually
wow.
have softball season now. They have tournaments and whatnot. And it's quite interesting because I actually started in education and switched. And he started in accounting and switched to education. So we kind of like, did a
So what
switch.
school does he teach at?
He's at Midlothian Heritage High School.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's been there for quite a few years now.
Okay.
So
So you went back to school?
I did.
Texas Wesley?
Women's.
Texas Women, I'm sorry. Texas Women, I'm sorry. TW in Denton.
Yes.
Yeah. And you got your PhD in nutrition. Am I right on that?
Yes.
And
Long time. Well, I went back. I had to get a second bachelor's degree.
Okay.
Because I became a dietitian. So I had to get another bachelor's degree. Then I got my master's, and then finally finished my PhD.
So what's the dream now?
Well, I'm living it a little, at least. I'm a dietitian. I'm helping people with their health. I recently started my private practice, and I hope to build it up. And I'm just, I know God brought me here for a reason, and I'm just waiting to see, as the doors open, and He shows me what to do with it. So
that's what you met Chris. We don't talk about Chris too often. Chris is behind the camera over here, but one of the other guys on our board is named Steve Roman, and we were talking about this whole building process and where we're going. And somebody said, "Man, I said, I'm not sure if I'm doing the right things." He said, "Clay, all you can do is you walk down the hall and rattle the doorknobs. Ones that are locked, you said, just leave that one alone and go to the next one." That's kind of what you're doing. You're just walking down the hall, opening the doors.
Yeah.
And if the Lord opens it, you go, okay, then this is the one that I'm gonna go into. So good for you. Something else interesting about you is that you're a ballet dancer.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, I started dancing when I was in high school at my church. So, and it wasn't ballet, it was hip hop dance. And they also had a step team. And I fell in love with dance. I used it originally to praise God. And I wanted to continue I wanted to get better. And where I was living, they had different dance schools, and the best school that was there was a ballet school. So, and I liked the fact that the music they played was not it was wholesome music. It wasn't the curse words or things like that. So I was like, okay, I can do this. I can take these classes and not put myself in a bad position, spiritually. And I fell in love with it. It gives me an opportunity to release my stress and be creative and share, that gift to other people, when I do get to dance. So, yeah, I really enjoy it.
Chris, did you hear that? A new way to relieve stress, brother. You and I need to take a ballet class. Chris, that ain't ballet, brother. Just for the folks who are watching, that was not ballet, okay? Just say it, okay? Oh, praise the Lord. So you've been volunteering in Dallas for quite a few years. I really don't even, how many? I should know better. I really don't.
I started during the pandemic. So when, 2020 maybe?
Right in the fun part, right?
Yeah, that's when so I think it's been 4 years maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a very difficult time.
Yes.
I think we're still learning lessons from the pandemic. One of those lessons I hope we learned is we need community. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Isolation is not good for anybody. And I mean, since you were here during the pandemic, you saw the response of the parents, which is something we've never had before. We never had this. We don't trust you. Really, what had anything to do with trust? But that's the way I received it. Really, it was about fear. Fearful of what was going to happen to their kids because of so many unknown things. But you stuck it through the pandemic, and you volunteer with us every week. Is there been any maybe a child that kind of comes to your mind? You're going, this is why I do this. It doesn't have to be a good or bad, because I'm thinking of normally when I think about why I do this, it's not because of the good stories at all. It's because of someone that life threw them a curve and they could never get past it.
Well, I just think of, growing up. For me, I remember at my youth church, my pastor encouraging me and how much that made an impact on me. Like if I didn't have him say like the things he said and giving me the attention he had given me, I don't think I would be where I'm at. And so I feel kind of like an obligation to do my part, because I know that an encouraging word is not common. It's very uncommon. Yeah. And whenever I'm like on the bus and I'm talking to the kids and I'll just say like, oh, that's a nice shirt you have on, and you just see how they just open up. Like you just say one nice thing to them and they just open up and they start, talking to you more, and they'll remember you. You come back the next week, they give you a hug. It's those little things that I know it's very important that we do that really makes a huge impact on them. And so I feel because I know it made an impact on me, I feel like it's my obligation to give back to other kids the same way.
Children are surprised not only when you give them attention, but when you remember them. Mm-hmm. And one of the traps that I have fallen into is I've never been really strong on names. I'm good on faces, not good on names. And the kids will call you out on that because they'll say, man, I know you. And then you know the next question is coming, right?
What's my name?
Exactly.
What's my name?
What's my name? Oh, boy. Because that makes you feel about this tall because you're going, because they think that you really don't care, but you do care.
Yeah.
What they don't remember is there's just they only have to remember your name.
Yeah.
But you got to remember hundreds of names,
yes.
In order to know them. And yet the impact on that. And I would totally agree. Most of our kids come from single-parent homes. Most of them, life is quite challenging. And their definition of normal is probably a little different than your definition of normal, and definitely different from what the people who are watching or listening to this podcast to normal. So if you were to tell us what from a child's perspective, that you pick up on a bus on Sunday, or Saturdays, I'm sorry. I'm going to think it's Sunday because I saw Jeremiah. Do you know Jeremiah by chance? He lives at, Colonial. I met him at summer camp last year. And as soon as I saw that kid, I knew he needed some help, right? Mm-hmm. So I became friends with him. And, of course, his mom, Timothy did a block party back in the fall. And his mom got on the bus. She not only got on the bus, she comes every week. She's got 4 kids. And and what caught my attention was she sits on the front row. Nobody sits on the front row at church. Come on now. Mm-hmm. And she said, I admit that I need help. I want help and I want change. She says, so the reason I asked her about that, she said, well, I sit on the front row. She says, because I want everything God's got for me this week. And I saw Jeremiah Sunday morning, and you can guess what his question was. When is summer camp coming? Yeah. Chris, now, again, we don't normally talk to Chris, but Chris, you can appreciate that. Here's this boy. He's only been to camp once. He's already counting down the days until camp comes back again. So if you were to define someone that's what normal looks like for our families, how would you describe that?
Well, depends on. There's some families I feel they have a ton of kids.
Yeah.
And not enough resources.
Yeah.
And the parents are juggling where to give their attention to, and you can kind of tell, like, okay, the troublemakers are the ones that get all the attention, and then there's some that are just like, off to the side, that, they're not as, I don't want to say they're ignored, but, they're not attended to as much. You have some that their neighborhood is obviously kind of rough, and the kids can be rough, and they can say really mean things to each other. And like, there's some kids you can tell, like, they're just tired of hearing it, and it breaks them hearing some of the things. And those are the ones that definitely need the encouragement, that need, someone to notice them.
Right.
There's the ones that are still kind of fearful too, in a sense. I get shocked whenever I hear some of the kids talk about, like, their living situations, their parents, some of them, and, their fathers are in jail, or, things like that.
Right.
And for them, it's normal because that's all they know.
Yeah.
They don't know anything different. And, you just try your best to make it seem like, you're normal, make them feel, that it's okay, their situations, and that, God still loves them. We love them. They can still have fun like a regular kid, I do think sometimes there's concerns with food, getting enough food.
Yeah.
And, which I think is kind of nice sometimes, seeing them, like, they're always ready to, like, well, I want to give this to, my brother when I get home, or, my sister, or whatnot, which always was, I'm always encouraged when I see how giving they are. They are actually very, very giving. I guess you learn to be giving, share what you have with those around you, which, I think that's nice that they do that.
When I look at kids, I usually look for kids in 3 categories. The first kids that I look for are those who act out the most.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the first group I look for, because they weren't born that way. Mm-hmm. Something's happened. Something tragic has happened. And one of the challenges for many of our kids is that we want them to act like adults as children. And the consequences of that is we now have adults who are still broken children. Mm-hmm. The second group I look for is the group you mentioned, and this is the easiest one. They're alone. Mm-hmm. That one's easy to pick out.
Yeah.
Same thing. Something's happened. Something traumatic's happened in their life, and so you have the one group over here. They're letting everybody know about it, and then this one over here, they're by themselves. This one over here is actually scary, this, because this one over here is going to explode someday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's going to be bad. That's why even like at camp, summer camp, I say, never let a kid be by themselves. If there's somebody eating by themselves, then even if you can't do nothing else that day, you can take care of that problem. Mm-hmm. Sit with them. Be with them. They desperately need a friend, and that's really what you're talking about, is befriending children and their families. And then the third group is a kid that's got potential. Mm-hmm. Someone that they have that, they already have a followership. I'm not saying they're leaders, but they already have a followership. You're going, if that child can ever get sold out to Christ, there's no telling what they can do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you talk about, the food issue. That was, one of the things that our new facility allow us to do is we'll have a kitchen where a child comes in, whether it's on Saturday or Sunday. We prepare food on Tuesday nights, but we actually we bring that food to the Lighthouse, and that's where we have the youth programs. And the reason for this is because all our kids are on, breakfast, and I'm singing your song right now, right? They're on breakfast and lunch at school already. That was something when Barbara and I first started, I didn't understand how this whole food thing would work. Because I would see kids after school, and they would have like a bag of chips or a soda or something like that, thinking, wait a minute, how can they do that with nothing to eat? Well, that's how they do that. Mm-hmm. Because that's what they have. There's not anything else. And so one of the things that we will have is that when kids come to Metro and they're sick, you already know the answer to this, but most of the time they're really not sick. They haven't eaten.
Yeah.
There was a child that came during the Christmas holidays on Sunday morning. A little girl said she was sick. Well, for the staff, I mean, you don't have to think about it. The first question that comes to your mind, whether you ask it or not, when's the last time you ate?
Yeah.
Or another way to put it, are you hungry? And that's why we handle it. Are you hungry? And most of the time, the answer is,
they're hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this new facility, we'll have a kitchen where we can kitchen, and then where we can cook the food, but we'll also have a warehouse out back with food in it, so
That's
we can
good.
send food home immediately to meet a need like that. Well, there's the dream the Lord's given to us to build this new facility and to do it absolutely debt-free. Our team, God has raised up incredible new group of leaders, and I believe that if we build this facility and we don't do it debt-free, we've done them a disservice. So if there's people watching today, and they're going, why should I get involved? Well, tell them, why should they get involved in Metro today?
Well, Metro Ministries, Dallas Metro, actually does what we are called to do. It's not just, here, give me the money so we can do this ministry over here and have a tax write-off or something like that. No. Literally on the front lines, making impact where it's needed. And lives are being changed, literally. And so I feel like, the building, or just in general, all the different things, Dallas Metro is a good steward with the funds. It's not just, you give us money and we'll go and use this just to pay for something that we want to pay for us to say like, oh, this is cool. No, it's used effectively. And I know a lot of people, at least I feel like my generation and those younger than me, they want to know that their finances are actually being used effectively and not just used, on random things that isn't important. And I think that this ministry is very good stewards with everything that is given and provided, that you guys literally, you look at what is it that they need and you try to meet them. I think of when we were at Carousel Court, one of the children there, well, it was a family actually, but there was one particular boy that always would come to Dallas Metro. And they didn't have any furniture. They didn't have that much clothes. And I remember Karina's like, let's see what we can do. What can we do? It's things like that, that's real ministry. And so I think if people feel led to give, that will give this ministry even more opportunity to reach the lost in the city. Dallas, I was in New York. Dallas is not much different from New York in terms of the things that, the people are facing.
Right.
And I feel a lot of times people feel as though we're in the southern, the church belt?
Yeah,
and
the Bible Belt.
Yeah, the Bible Belt. And they feel as though ministry is fine and it's saturated. No, they need help in these low-income areas.
Right.
They need Jesus.
Right. And I totally agree with that. When people think of Dallas, all kinds of things come to your mind. Our beloved Cowboys. Sorry, Cowboy fans. You think of Clyde Warren Park and White Rock Lake, and Dallas obviously has some beautiful places to see. There's no question about that. We're a great corporate town. We also have a lot of hurting people, and you said it right, that need the Lord. That I hope the thing is different about Dallas Metro, and I think I can say this pretty confidently. Do we meet needs? Yes. We have a responsibility to do that, but that's until you get things right with Christ. Programs don't change people's lives. Mm-hmm. The government has taught us this. I wish they did. You know what? If program changed people's lives, we'd already be done. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. First off, you have to meet people where they're at, and if they're broken, they're hungry, they have physical needs. When you meet those needs, you've made a statement to them. You really care about me.
Yeah.
And then you have the opportunity to share with them the love of Christ. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate you taking time out to be with us. Thanks for volunteering. Thanks for investing in our kids. You're making a difference. I want you to know that. Hey, folks, I'm so glad that you chose to be with us today. I would encourage you to go to our webpage today, dallasmetro.org, click on All In, and then down at the bottom there it says, What is All In? And you can see the pictures and drawings that Michael Cathcart has drawn. They're beautiful, the things he's got laid out. You can see the kitchen I mentioned, the warehouse out back. These are all great tools that'll help us reach children and their families in the inner city of Dallas. And it's happened for 36 years now. It's happened because people just like you, partnering with us, believing with us, expecting miracles. I'm asking you to do that today. Would you consider making a donation towards this brand new facility? It'll help us to do this absolutely debt-free. And then would you take it to a second step? Would you consider making a monthly commitment for the next 12 months so that we can see if this facility is built absolutely debt-free? So glad you joined with us today. We'll see you next week. God bless you.